is. Did you want me to introduce myself first, or did you want to introduce yourself?
No, go for it.
Okay. All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Kanika Tolver. I am the DC chapter president for the Blacks in Technology DC chapter. I've been in the GovTech industry for over 19 years. I've worked in the federal government tech space. Also worked in government contracting as well. So I'm super excited about this conversation because I have been able to really have a successful career with having a security clearance. So I do know that there's a lot of power in having a security clearance. And I'm super excited to just be here and to represent the DC chapter.
All right, thank you, Kanika. And I am Dennis Schultz. I'm the executive director for the Blacks in Technology Foundation. I'm based in Charlotte, but I've lived all over, spent most of my professional career in the New York City metro area, living in New Jersey, working in Manhattan, and the tri-state, if you will. Most recently lived in Northern Virginia before I moved from Loudoun County down to Charlotte, where I am now. As you can see, I'm a proud Hokie. Virginia Tech hopefully will have a better football year than last year. I'm looking forward to this fall. The things that excite me about working with Blacks in Technology, and I've been executive director now for the past 3 years, been with the organization for 6, is the fact that I get to introduce people to new opportunities and things that they didn't necessarily think could be a potential career. If you're not familiar with the Blacks in Technology Foundation, I'm just going to take 2 minutes to give you a high-level overview of who we are and what we do. We are primarily an organization of techies. When I say techies, these are the people who actually work in IT departments, your cloud architects, your software engineers, your cybersecurity specialists. Those are our people, though we do have students, educators, entrepreneurs, and venture capitalists, and a little bit of everything. We cast a pretty wide umbrella. Globally, we're over 35,000 members strong. We have chapters in 20 countries, over 80 chapters in total. And if you aren't a member of Blacks in Technology, you can join for free. There's no membership fees or dues. All that we ask is that, 1, you identify as Black or African American, and 2, you have an interest in technology. The things that we provide are resources and tools for people who want to upskill, get trained up in a career, or for folks who want to break into the career in tech. We want to make sure that you have the tools necessary to identify where your strengths lie, where those transferable skills are, and what you can potentially do in the tech space. How much money you can make, how long is it going to take to train, those soft skills supports like mentorship or resume reviews or interview prep or salary negotiation. We do all of that stuff. We don't have any federal funding or grants. We're a private organization, and we are primarily funded by individual donors and sponsors. So our corporate sponsors include companies like Microsoft and Intuit. And what we do is give money back that we receive into the community. So our goal is to see more people who look like me and Kanika in tech and to thrive in tech. I wouldn't be an ED without plugging our annual conference. So this fall, this September, we're going to be in Atlanta for our 7th annual BitCon. This is our annual conference where we highlight and showcase Black technology excellence. So we'll have a bunch of folks there representing different companies and various technologies, but we'll also have the ability to network, have fun. The conference is September 4th through the 6th. It's the week of Labor Day. We're going to have a Labor Day cookout on Monday if you're in the Atlanta area. If you're not in the Atlanta area, you can come out early if you like. But the conference is the 4th through the 6th, which is Wednesday through Friday. We're going to have a closeout concert. Kanika, I'm choosing between 2 artists. It's either going to be T.I. or Rick Ross for the closeout concert. So hopefully we'll close that out in the next week or so.
I'm choosing T.I.
I'm leaning towards T.I. too. It's Atlanta.
Gotta go with the king. We got
to. And then I'm thinking the Black Tie Gala we're going to have, which is going to be at the Porsche Experience Center in Atlanta. So if anybody, has deep pockets or a company that's willing to sponsor them, That's something nice to come to, get dressed up. You need a place to, wear your jewelry. That's the place to do it. But there's a lot of things that you can experience during the conference, around the conference. There's definitely going to be opportunities for networking, and companies are looking to hire and recruit diverse talent. So with that said, I'm going to yield back because I could talk for half an hour on it, but I know I got a lot to get to.
I want to let them know I dropped the conference link in the chat for anybody that's interested in coming to the conference. And some people wanted to know if we could drop the link to the chapters.
Absolutely, I'll do that as well. So as you get started, I'll go ahead and plop some more links in there. But thank you for having me. I'm going to be here more or less for tech support. So with that, Kanika, I'll let you get things going.
All right, so I hope you guys are excited because we're about to get into this amazing webinar about the power of getting a security clearance. But first, I wanted to introduce everyone from the ManTech team. So Robert, I wanted to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself and the rest of the team. I think you're on mute, Robert.
Sorry.
It's okay.
My name is Robert Denegal. As you already know, I'm with ManTech. I am the director of our Personnel Security Center. So one of our larger tasks to do is processing security clearances throughout the enterprise on behalf of our employees. And, we have a lot of other things we do, but for the purpose of this conversation, that's most relevant as far as what we do. I'll let my other colleagues introduce themselves if they would like. Latoya.
Hello, my name is Latoya Coleman. I would come off camera, but y'all don't want to see that at 7 o'clock tonight. So I'll stay off camera. But my name is Latoya Coleman. I am an executive director at ManTech for enterprise security.
Yeah.
Carolette.
You beat me to it.
You're on mute.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for the reminder. It would help if I came off mute. My name is Carolette Melbourne. I am the director of cybersecurity here at ManTech, and I really support the profit and loss side of the house, facing directly with one of our federal civilian customers and 9 end user agencies, ensuring that their cybersecurity risk footprint is as minimized as possible. So that's my role.
Thank you. And I
Can
guess
you guys hear me okay?
yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. So my name is Tanisha Hewling. I am a senior strategic talent advisor at ManTech. And that primarily means I'm a recruiter. I'm residing in the DC area, and my focus is primarily business development on the intelligence side of the house.
All right, thank you so much. So we're going to go ahead and to jump into the presentation. I know a lot of people that are a part of the Blacks in Technology community. They're very interested in what does it take to get a security clearance. And a lot of people want to get into GovTech. It's a super popular thing right now. So we're excited to hear more from Robert. And as you guys walk through this process with Robert, feel free to put your questions in the chat, because towards the end, we're going to address a few questions. All right. Take it away, Robert.
Okay, I will share my screen. And can everyone see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay, so again, the power of the security clearance, and kind of as you may know, you may not know, having that security clearance, should you be granted one, can be a powerful thing relative to your career, can open up a lot of doors for you in places that maybe you couldn't have gotten into without one. So we're going to kind of go over the overall process from kind of beginning to end. What is a clearance? What it takes to get it, the steps, what happens after you get a clearance, and kind of everything in between, kind of at a high level. And then with a lot of your questions, we can delve a little bit deeper into it and kind of get to the nuts and bolts of things, relative to some of the things you guys may want to hear or know that I haven't covered. So with that, we'll go, what is a security clearance? Okay. And for this, I'll just read this out. It's an authorization granted to individuals by the federal government. So just to highlight that, the federal government. So, you know, not your local county, city, those type of things. You know, we're looking at the federal government that is allowing them to access classified information or areas. So classified information, sometimes people don't really understand what that is, but that can be many things. Classified information can be something that's written on paper. It can be a conversation that you're part of or that you're listening to. It can be a piece of equipment. Lots of different things can encompass classified information. And the next thing it says there, or area, it could be a location. You know, maybe it's a location on a military base. Maybe it's a location of a facility, and that location in and of itself carries a classification designation. So again, security clearance is an authorization granted to individuals by the federal government that allows you to have access to classified information or areas. There are 3 different types of levels in security clearance world: confidential, secret, and top secret. Each contains a lot of sensitive information, and secret is a little more sensitive than confidential. Top secret is a little more sensitive than secret. Top secret, you'll hear the term TS. A lot of people just say TS instead of top secret. Same thing. Many people in the security world hear a term TS/SCI. And, you know, somebody may say, I have a clearance, I have TS/SCI. But the TS is the actual clearance part. The SCI is not a clearance per se. It is a level of access or special access granted to you. The SCI stands for sensitive compartmented information. So it's information at the top secret level that's even more highly sensitive. And so it's kind of partitioned off. It's kind of like that line of demarcation. You can, you know, from here on, only these 7 people can have access to it, and these 58 people can't, even though the 58 people may have a top secret, but they don't have that need to have that sensitive compartmented information, knowledge, or hearing about it, or seeing it, or touching it. Because as the next point says, access to classified information requires both a proper clearance level. So when you're at the confidential level, you can access other information that's at the confidential level, but you have to have a need to know. So you're working on project Blue Sky, I'm working on project Black Sky. You have a confidential clearance, I have a confidential clearance. But you don't have a need to know about my project, and I don't have a need to know about your project. So we cannot discuss the information relative to that with each other about each other's project. Now, if we happen to be given that need to know or have that need to know because of your special skill set, and they say, hey, Robert, we need you over here on Project Blue Sky as well, then I would be given access to Project Blue Sky. Now we can talk that out. It's the same thing with higher levels of clearance. So even if somebody has a secret clearance and you have a confidential clearance, if they don't have a need to know about your project, then you still can't discuss it with them. They're not going to be in any type of meetings or briefings or looking at any documents or anything of that nature. So just because you have a higher level of clearance doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get access to anything at that particular level. Again, when you get to that top secret level, you may be part of a program that contains SCI type information. So again, even though others may have that top secret clearance, on the same project you're working on, they're not part of that highly sensitive portion of that program. And so it's kind of partitioned off, for lack of a better phrase, compartmented, put over here. These 18 people have access to it. and the rest don't. And again, if you guys have questions, please put them in the chat. We can kind of answer them as we're going along as well. And then, of course, at the end, we will have a question and answer session.
Yeah, we're gonna try to get through as many slides as we can first, so you can get through as much content, and then I'll pull some of the questions.
Okay, so here, what you have here, this is essentially as what it says, a roadmap. This is the clearance process, essentially from beginning to end, and I'm going to cover these points. You start off as somebody that's being put in for a clearance. You complete that clearance application, that paperwork, you submit it. It then goes into the investigation stage, the background investigation stage, where an actual investigator will get your file. That person will then start digging into your background, to get that life snapshot of who this person is, because, the concern is really your trustworthiness to be able to protect classified information. And so they're going to be really, 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 really diligent. And we're going to get into some of that a little bit more, but they're going to be really diligent in going over your background. And as it says there, may include an interview of yourself, family members, friends, co-workers, people you went to school with. Any of those people are fair game, and they can talk to any of those people in the course of their duties as far as investigating you. Once an investigation is complete, that file is passed on to the adjudication section. An adjudicator gets your file, and then that adjudicator, based on some guidelines that they have, for lack of a better term, they score everything they've gotten about you against those guidelines. So how does your life match up relative to those guidelines? And we're going to show you what those guidelines are that they use. They're 13. They call them the 13 adjudicative guidelines. And we're going to cover those as well. That last point on the roadmap is continuous vetting. Once you do have a clearance and you are granted that clearance, the government is going to put you in what they call the continuous vetting, continuous evaluation process. And so behind the scenes, daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, they're going to be doing all these various checks on you to kind of make sure, were they arrested? Are they wanted? What kind of financial situation are they in now? All kinds of things. They may look at social media things. They run the gamut so that they can kind of really see where you are on an ongoing basis. And again, we'll talk a little bit more about that, but this is
So Robert, we have a couple of questions about this slide. So one person said, if I use marijuana, would that prevent me from receiving my clearance? I'm just trying to go through as many questions. If you, I got some questions.
No, that's fine. If you use marijuana, that in and of itself does not negate you from being approved for a clearance. You just really want to be honest at all times. If you have used marijuana, you definitely want to declare that on the form where it's applicable. And I'll get into that form, because on that form that you're going to fill out, some answers, some history questions, they're going to want you to go back in the last 10 years. Other questions is going to be within the entirety of your life. Have you ever this? So to kind of answer that question, no, it doesn't necessarily lead to a denial. They're going to look at the whole person. It's kind of like a whole person concept. And so you use marijuana 40 years ago. Okay, maybe that's not that big a deal for them. You use marijuana in a state where it's not legal, and you used it, you declared on there you smoked 300 times in the last year, and you knew it was illegal within the state or jurisdiction you're in, then that may lead down another path. And again, neither of these paths necessarily will negate you from getting a clearance. And we're going to get into that a little bit more about
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm gonna let you go.
about concerns and things that can mitigate those concerns.
Okay.
Okay. But thank you, that's fine. Okay, the investigation process we're going to get into. Again, at the beginning of that roadmap, we talked about an applicant filling out the form. That form is an SF-86. Okay, and then once you fill that out, you go right into that investigation phase. Okay, so the SF-86, and we'll wait for the nice, fun part.
The animation here. Mhm.
The nice fun part. So on that SF-86, again, that's used, that is the basic document used in the background check. So that document is going to gather just, a tremendous amount of information about you and your life, whether you're 21, 29, 59, 69, 89, whatever the case may be, they're gonna look at, essentially an entirety of that person's life, because again, they want to make a determination whether or not this person will be trustworthy, relative to protection of classified information. Okay, and again, I mentioned they're going to go back many of those historical questions. Where have you lived in the last 10 years? Where did you work in the last 10 years? Where did you go to school in the last 10 years? What kind of foreign travel have you done in the last 10 years? Then it may be questions such as, have you ever been arrested? Have you, have you ever XYZ? So questions are going to be on both ends of the spectrum, and we're going to get into a little bit of that in an upcoming slide. Just remember, honesty is the best policy. So kind of relating back to that marijuana question, you did smoke marijuana. I've seen people that smoke marijuana over the years, acid, mushrooms, whatever the case may be. Honesty is
the
the
truth
best.
though, yeah.
Yeah, honesty is the best policy. Always fill out that form, because that form is also a legal document.
Then it said crack. Then it said, what about crack?
Yeah, it's crack too. Yeah, you definitely, we know what Whitney said about crack. Okay, so checks and balances. Again, that form is a legal document. So whatever you put on that form, make sure it's accurate, because again, that's going to serve as that checks and balances. You put down on the form, no, I never did this, and then they find out, yes. Now that that there's an issue that needs to be resolved, and it could possibly lead to you not being approved for a clearance.
Speaking of lying, someone has a question, Robert, about lying about the dates on your resume, like the dates of the jobs that you had on your resume, where people put the start and end dates, but they're false. What happens?
See, okay, so if you're lying, then the intent is to deceive. So that's one thing versus not being able to recall 100% what that date is. So you kind of approximate the date. So on that form, each of those sections has an area where you can add comments. So if you knew it was in 2022, but you wasn't sure if it was January or March or April.
Month, yeah, you kind of winging the month is different from you just saying, look, I worked at these places knowing I didn't work at these places.
Yes, because if you're lying, again, that goes to deceit, and now they're looking at you like this person is not trustworthy. Why did you lie on this form? And again, this form is a legal document. You actually can be fined and or prison time for lying on that particular form. There's a link here.
Can you do you need me to copy and paste that and put that in the chat? Or
Yeah.
okay,
Yes,
I have this. I got the slides. I could grab it for you.
Okay. Now this here, and again, but within this link, you'll be able to go here. This is actually from a government site, and it talks about this SF-86 form. Okay, and it starts telling you the things you need to start gathering before you fill out this form. The form is quite extensive. It depends on the life that you led. It's your life. You may have a lot of relatives, immediate family members. You may have had 15 jobs. You may have done a lot of foreign travel. You may have been arrested. You may have this, that, and the other. You may have been in the military. So this form kind of starts telling you the things you need to gather, the things you need to be aware of that the form is going to ask you for. I've seen this form where it's over 90 pages. I've seen a couple that were over 100 pages. It just depends on yourself and you know, how many places have you lived in the last 10 years? You know, how many immediate family members do you have? How much foreign travel did you do? Have you had credit issues? Have you had criminal issues? Have you had substance abuse issues? How many schools have you gone to? So a lot of different things that you're going to have to provide on this form. But this particular document is really, really valuable to you. Again, it talks about before you start, things you need to start gathering. You know, you may be a U.S. citizen, but perhaps you're a naturalized. You need to have that information handy so you can provide that information. Have your passport handy. You need to know things about your relatives. Again, previous physical residences, dates of attendance, diplomas, degrees received, dates of employment, all this, and then a lot of stuff about yourself, you'll know your social security number and things of that nature. But again, you're gonna have to go back to where you lived, your whole employment history. You know, did you have any military information, your education? Have you done any formal federal service? Are you married? People that know you well, then your relatives, you're going to have to know information about your relatives. Now, again, this is just immediate family. So think mother, father,
Siblings.
stepmother, stepfather, brothers, sisters, whether they're step or halves, your children, you need to have all of that information in here, and you're going to need to know a little more basic information about them, addresses, whether they're deceased or not. Even if they're deceased, you're going to have to put them on that particular form, but you'd indicate that that particular person is deceased. Now, we've had some cases where people say, well, I'm estranged from this person. I'm estranged from this immediate relative. You can put that on there as well in the comments as to why you don't have that information. There are boxes on there that just says, I do not know that information. And then you can write an explanation on there. If there needs to be clarification, an investigator will reach out to you and discuss that information that needs clarifying. Information about your citizenship, again, your military history. Do you have any foreign associations? Your financial history, substance abuse, investigation and criminal history, psychological and emotional health. These are all those things that they're going to be looking at. And again, you'll have the link to this, and it's a great guide. So before you go down that path and start that security clearance process, you want to look at this document or one similar to it that's going to prepare you for everything you need to do, because that form itself takes on average 2.5 hours to complete that form.
Yeah, I've completed that form. That form is no joke. And if you don't put the right information and you're not accurate, they'll send it back and ask you to clarify things. Guys, I put the link to the investigation process, the link that Robert's referring to on the slide. Please make sure that you save that link and you use that as you are applying to opportunities that are possibly sponsoring clearances. Just educate yourself on that process. Yeah.
Yes, very important. And take your time on that form. And again, I'm gonna keep foot stomping it. Be honest on that form. Do not sugarcoat it. Do not try to slow roll something, give them part of it, omit things, because they're gonna find out, and then you're gonna be in another another stage of this process that you didn't have to be in.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. So no problem. So once that investigator gets your file and he starts looking at your form and he starts looking into your history and starts checking things, you may depends. If you're going for a top secret clearance, or your company or the government or someone you're working for put you in to be processed for a top secret clearance, you will always talk to an investigator. That is 100% across the board. They'll have your form, they'll sit down with you, they'll go over every section of that form, specifically any red flag areas that they see, areas that need to be clarified, or things that just don't look right to them, and they'll discuss that with you. But just keep in mind, the investigator, whether you talk to somebody on the phone, you talk to them in person, that person is not the person that grants your clearance. You know, many times people talk to these investigators, or investigators come in, they get very intimidated. You know, they feel like, you know, this person kind of has their clearance in their hands. They do not. They have no vested interest in whether you get the clearance or whether you don't get the clearance.
They
Their
just doing
job,
their job. Yeah, they just doing their
exactly. Their
part.
job is to gather that information, but I can't tell you the number of times I heard people really were nervous and even came out of it nervous and thinking, oh no, you know, I don't know if I'm going to get it, that type of thing. But just keep that in mind. But again, honesty is the best policy. You don't want to be in that interview and had something on that form, and the investigator was saying, well, we found out this. You indicated you had never been over 90 days late on any credit, paying back any loans or any credit cards. And then here we see you're past 120 days on 5 accounts. Now you need to explain that, you know. So if you're going on that form and you get down to those yes, no questions, and pretty much the last third of that form are yes, no questions. Have you ever in the last 10 years, have you ever within the last 10 years, did you? If you have any yes responses, you want to make sure that when you talk to an investigator, you know why that was a yes, be able to explain, clarify. Yes, I was having those credit issues, but you know, I've talked to my creditor, I worked out payment plans, you know, or I paid it off. I got a loan from the bank, my parents, whoever, it's taken care of. I took some credit counseling, it shouldn't happen again. Be ready to explain and clarify all of that, because you don't want to get in the interview and then kind of stumble bumble and, well, I don't know why I didn't pay that. I don't know, when did that go into collections? I'm not sure. Why didn't you pay it? That's
So,
definitely.
so Robert, while you talking about the credit, I got a couple of questions about that, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I have some questions in here. I'm gonna try to address, because it's like 14. It's the questions in the chat and it's questions in the Q&A. So I'm gonna try to address the ones that in reference to bankruptcy and credit together to try to. So
Okay.
people are asking, what if my credit isn't the best during the investigation stage, and what if I have claim bankruptcy? This is two different people asking a similar question. So
Well, I can tell you this. Financial issues are one of the bigger areas of concern. You know, it's percentage wise, it's up there with criminal relative to those areas that cause people the most delays in the process or to get denied in the process. You know, those two areas are probably right up there, kind of neck and neck. However, they don't in and of themselves, again, negate you from getting approved for a clearance, you know, because they're going to look at it's that whole person concept. Why did you file bankruptcy? Maybe you had a medical issue. Maybe it was just something you did when you were younger and you really weren't thinking whatever. And now it's 5 years later, you've learned your lesson, you paid everything off since then, you paid cash, you built your credit up slowly, whatever the case may be. So those financial issues in and of themselves may not be something that gets you denied for that clearance. It may cause the process to go a little bit longer while they're looking into it and making sure what you told them was accurate, checking with those companies and make sure you do have that plan, making sure you have been straight since you filed that bankruptcy, why did you get into that bankruptcy? They may look into that. Well, they said it was medical concerns. We didn't find any. The person couldn't provide any. So it just depends on your particular situation. So for financial concerns, again, be ready to explain and clarify what went on, and more importantly, what you did after that to kind of address that situation, and what is your thought process, or what things have you put in place to continue to move past it and move more to the positive realm of that financial situation. So hopefully that kind of answered
Yeah.
that. And actually, I'm going to get into something that kind of talks about what those concerns that they're looking at and what can mitigate concerns. So
Okay, let's just keep going with the slides. I think they want us to keep moving forward with the slides and get to the questions at the end so we can get to most of the content. I was trying to address questions as you were talking about them. But I think we're on slide 7, so we have a couple more slides to go.
Okay, so, and the adjudication process. So once that investigator has completed doing everything, they got all the information relative to you so that a determination can be made whether you're able to, be approved to be authorized to access classified information. So that's the adjudication step. Okay, so as it says in that first bullet, security clearance determinations are made by an authorized government adjudicator within a respective government agency. Okay, and they're going to review all that information that investigator gathered, and then they're going to compare that with these guidelines. Okay, and so again, I mentioned there are 13 adjudicative guidelines. And here they are: allegiance to the United States, foreign influence, foreign preference, sexual behavior, personal conduct, financial considerations, going back to those questions we just had, alcohol consumption, drug involvement, talking about the marijuana and the crack we talked about earlier, psychological conditions, criminal conduct, handling protected information, outside activities, use of information technology system. And within each of these guidelines, they have a list of concerns. What is concerning behavior within this category? But they also have mitigating guidelines. So you had this concern based on your behavior or actions. Okay, can that be mitigated, or has that been mitigated? And they have a set of guidelines for that as well. And that's what I want to kind of cover. But just also know that these guidelines can overlap each other. So you use drugs illegally, you use crack, you don't put it on your SF-86 form. So now you're looking at drug involvement. That's one guideline that there's a big red flag. But then you lied on the form. So now you're looking at personal conduct. Can we trust this person? And then because it was illegal, you're looking at criminal conduct. So now you have 3 of these 13 guidelines that you have concerns within based on essentially one act. You smoke some crack. Okay, so that drug involvement, that criminal conduct, and the fact that you didn't put that on your form. Maybe you were high from the crack and you forgot to put it on there, but you just don't have it on there. Okay, so as you see here, this is a sample. We talked about financial considerations. That's guideline F. This is the actual guideline. So as you see there, they say what the concern is within this guideline: failure to live within one's means, satisfy debts, meet financial obligations, may indicate blah, blah, blah. And I'm not going to read this whole thing, but this is the concern. And then even at the second paragraph, financial distress can also be caused or exacerbated by, and thus can be a possible indicator of, so you have these financial problems. This is why it's a concern. You have these debts. Now, because you have those debts, might you do something illegal to get out of those debts? To include, stealing classified information and selling that information or blackmailing somebody to do the same. And so they're always looking at protection of that classified information. So everything goes back to what about this person may lead us to believe that they may not be trustworthy when it comes to protection of that classified information. At the bottom, you'll see in blue, even affluence, but it says affluence that cannot be explained by known sources of income. So you may have had an aunt that left you $3 million. You didn't tell anybody for whatever reason. You didn't put it on your form, and now investigators are talking to people. And well, I don't know. Last time I saw him, he had a 28-year-old car that was on his last leg, and he didn't look like he had anything. He had an eviction notice on the door, and now I heard he just moved out and bought a $1 million house. Things of that nature. So any type of affluent, especially when it just happens, you want to report this even after you have a clearance, things of this nature. And these adjudication guidelines, they're going to be held, they're used even after you have the clearance. So, but we're kind of talking about going and getting the clearance, but just know that even after you get the clearance, these guidelines are still the guidelines, and you're still being looked at against these guidelines. When we talked about that continuous vetting and continuous evaluation, they're constantly looking at you, and they still want to know this. They still want to know this, and oh, I'm sorry, I heard something.
Oh, no, sorry,
Yeah.
I was coughing. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. So that's the concern. And then they talk about conditions that could raise that concern: inability to satisfy debts, unwillingness to satisfy debts, regardless of the ability to do so. So maybe you could have paid it, you just didn't. A history of not meeting financial obligations, so you just have a long history of never paying. Consistent spending beyond one's means, or frivolous or irresponsible spending. Failure to file fraudulently, filing annual federal, state, or local income taxes. So have you not filed your taxes for the last 10 years? Did you fraudulently file your taxes? Borrow money or engaging in significant financial transactions to fund gambling, or pay off gambling debt. So these things are what they're looking at as conditions. Again, that first sentence that could raise a security concern and may be disqualifying. However, when people were asking about what if I did this, what if I did this, conditions that could mitigate security concerns. So in that financial realm, the behavior happened so long ago, was so infrequent, or occurred under such circumstances that is not likely to recur. So you did something 15 years ago, you've been great since then, it's probably never going to happen again. It looks like it. Maybe there was one slip up, they went through a small period of time where they got way behind, but that's not the case anymore. The condition that resulted in the financial problems will largely belong to the person's control. So that could be a medical thing, a business downturn, something that caused you to file bankruptcy, as someone was asking about, caused you to file bankruptcy. It was out of your control. Could have been a victim of predatory lending or identity theft. So these things here, and again, I'm not going to read them all, but all of those guidelines have things that they're concerned about, but also conditions that can mitigate that concern. So just know that. So when I say it depends, or that doesn't necessarily negate, your ability to be approved or authorized to access classified information. That's true, because they're going to look at everything. They're going to look at what the concern is about this person, and then they're going to say, okay, let's see if that can be mitigated based on what's going on in their lives today or since that particular issue. Once you've gotten your clearance, you're going to go into what they call continuous vetting and continuous evaluation. So they're going to continuously look at you. Back in, we'll just say the old days, which actually wasn't that long ago, you would go through at certain periods of time, 5 years or 10 years, you would go through what they called a periodic reinvestigation. And you would have to say, fill out that same SF-86 again and kind of give an update what's happened over the last 5 years. But what they found was that a lot of people would have a lot of issues within that 5-year period that they didn't report. They got arrested twice for DUI. You know, they filed bankruptcy. They would be scared to reveal these things to their security officer because they thought that might affect their clearance, and then they're trying to clean it up before that 5-year or 10-year period came around and they had to fill out that form again. So the government is saying, now they're saying, no, we're not going to do things that way. We're going to set up all these databases, all these methods that we can do without having to do an investigator and using an investigator to spend time. That's kind of slow process. And we're going to do these things electronically, in an automated fashion. And again, this says provides, after clearance has been granted, expanded real-time automated record checks by tracking and compiling data related to the individual on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis. So, if you got arrested 2 weeks ago, they're going to know about it. Even if there wasn't a conviction, they're going to know about that arrest. So things happen. You didn't pay that credit card off, even if it was just 33 days and somebody reported you, they're going to know that. These things may not cause anything to happen negative to you, but just know they're going to be doing these checks. And again, just as an aside, when you're filling out this form and you're looking at how you're conducting your life, just realize they can also look at social media when they're doing the clearance investigation. So just be aware of that. Not that they're going to look at every place you have a presence at, but that is another tool in their investigative box where they can actually start looking at that information as well. So, and again, when people are worried about the drug use, admit it. Not something I'm interested in doing again, because it's not. And you just let them know that. But once you do get your clearance and you're in this continuous vetting, they're going to be looking at all of these things behind the scenes automatically. And something really bad happens, there's a serious red flag, then that's going to cause, them to open up an investigation relative to that person. And every 5 years, you're going to have to, regardless of level of clearance, whether you have a confidential, a secret, or top secret, every 5 years, you must fill out a new form. If that form doesn't provide them with any significant red flags that they didn't already know, you'll just stay in this continuous vetting program. But if there's something pops that they didn't know about and they see that they're significant, then they'll open up a full investigation, assign an investigator, and that person will start digging further into that particular person. And that's essentially what I just covered there. Because at that bottom bullet, cannot solely rely on self-reporting process. And again, that's why we're here, because people just really don't report things when things happen because they're scared they're going to lose their clearance, or they could lose their clearance. So they want to fix it up, and then, better to ask forgiveness than permission type of situation is what's thinking of a lot of people. That's really it. I kind of tried to give you a roadmap from beginning to the end, from filling out the form to going to an investigator, to the investigation completing. It goes to an adjudicator. From the adjudicator, clearance is granted, hopefully, not necessarily, hopefully in most cases. And then you go into the continuous vetting program, where they're still looking at you on an ongoing basis. And you continue, as long as you need that clearance, to submit a new SF-86 every 5 years.
Thank you, Robert. I appreciate the presentation. That was a lot of great information. Can you stick around, because we have some questions in the chat?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, awesome. All right, so going to try to get through as many questions as I possibly can, because I know we're running out of time soon. But I know that the people, they came here for the questions, and they came here for your content, and some of the questions is related to the things that you presented. So if we can kind of maybe just do a speed round of question and answers to get through as many as we can.
Sure.
How long is a security clearance good for? I think that different levels, isn't it good for a certain amount of years?
It's good for as long as you continue to have that need to know. You know, you're still working for that company under that classified program, you're still working for that government customer, and you still have that need to know. It's still, you know, as long as you don't have anything that causes your clearance to be revoked, you're going to have that clearance. Now, if you leave a position that requires a clearance, you no longer are using your clearance, there is a 2-year window to kind of come back and have it reinstated. Outside of that, you got to start that process all over
Again.
all
Yeah.
over.
Yeah. So if you don't use your clearance, it becomes inactive after 2 years, right?
Yes, you essentially you do not have anything.
Okay. All right. Another question was in reference to there's a lot of questions in here. I'm trying to find the ones that most people would.
And I can stay over as well. So
Okay, all right, perfect. I like to try to give the people what they need. The difference between public trust and confidential clearance.
Well, it's almost in that question. The confidential is a security clearance. The public trust is not a security clearance. Okay, it's also sometimes you'll see the word suitability determination, but a public trust, that is just that government entity, could be an agency, could be a department, could be whatever within the government is saying our information is pretty sensitive and we want that information protected. So we want to run an investigation on this particular person just to assess our own, trustworthiness. And then, if the investigation is favorable, then they're going to allow access to that information, but it is not a security clearance.
Okay.
It is not at the same level as a security clearance. It's not the same thing.
So, this is a really good question. You mentioned social media. What happens if you're vocal on social media about the things in regards to the federal government, the things that you agree with or you don't agree with? Me being a federal government employee, I kind of shy away from talking negatively about the federal government because I am a federal government employee and I did take an oath that I would serve as a federal government employee. From a government contracting perspective, is that the same things people should be, a little bit? I think you just shouldn't do it at all. Saying if you want to be a government contractor or government employee, I think you shouldn't say anything negative about the government on social media.
I mean, again,
they're asking, can it disqualify them in the investigation process?
In and of itself, it may not. It depends on what you're talking, because you go back to those guidelines. That first one, allegiance to the United States. What was it that was said? Was it something you said that caused them to question your allegiance to the United States? Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. There's still a thing called the First Amendment. So there's some latitude there, but within that guideline, and if we looked at that guideline, it would show what the concern is in that particular guideline. And again, something on social media could cross many boundaries of information you're talking about, even to include showing foreign preference or foreign influence within those social media posts. So it's really going to depend on the specific content
of what you said.
That particular person said. There's no book that somebody's going to look at and say, oh, just don't say these 17 things.
Right. No, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think when you think of even when we talk about the Hatch Act and you can't favor certain political parties, you can't do that in the job itself and things like that. So me personally, I just try to stay away from those hot topics. The next question is, do certain felonies disqualify you from a security clearance, from a secret clearance or a top secret clearance? Or does it just come down to being truthful? I know you've been saying be truthful this whole time. So if I was out here doing some stuff in these streets and I run a secret clearance and I want or a top secret clearance is a felony, a certain felony is going to disqualify me.
Certain felonies definitely can disqualify you, especially at the top secret level. The secret level, over the years, I have seen definitely people that had felonies in the past to get them. You know, it really depends on the felony. It really depends on how long ago it was. So they look at all of those factors. Was this 2 years ago? You just got off probation, or was it 22 years ago and you've been clean and fine and productive ever since? I hate to keep saying it depends, but really it does depend. And everybody on this call is an individual that's different from everybody else. And so the circumstances for you, they got to look at that circumstances surrounding your life and how you are and those circumstances with you. Somebody else might have a similar situation where their case goes in a totally different direction based on some other things within their background as well. So again, be honest and be able to explain what happened when you talk to an investigator, because if you did commit a felony and you put that on a form, you'll say you're going for a secret clearance and you did something that was 17 years ago, they're going to ask you about it. What happened? And again, the investigator just gathering information, the adjudicator looks at it, and that concern we looked at earlier, that financial concern, talked about one of the things that can mitigate it is because it happened so long ago and it's
Right.
not likely to occur again. So those same types of mitigating concerns are found throughout all of those guidelines. And so they realize that people can change, and they're looking at that pattern of behavior since then. Also, let me tell you this, nobody, if somebody tells you to put in for a security clearance, nobody's going to be able to tell you you're never going to get that clearance. You're not going to get that clearance. So if you're talking to your security officer, you're talking to somebody, a friend, and your company, your government agency, whoever says, hey, go ahead and put in for this clearance, we're not adjudicators. The adjudicators are the adjudicators. So, let's be honest, put that paperwork in, and let the process work.
If they get denied, somebody said, can they apply again?
You can, if you get denied, that there is a legal process. If you get denied, then you can ask for a hearing. There are hearings, and then there's appeals. Okay, you put in, the government says, what happens? It's a whole process. They'll send you paperwork that says we intend to deny based on this information. Once you get that letter, they're going to say you have so much time to kind of say, we got this information wrong. You'd like to have a hearing to discuss it. You have the opportunity to get a lawyer and to fight that particular case. You go to the hearing, it gets judged your way, the government can appeal. It goes the government's way, you can appeal. At the end of the day, let's say you do get a final denial, you've gone through the appeal process, didn't work, you have to wait a year. After a year, you can apply back again, and then you go through that process again, assuming whoever you're working for, wants you to go through that process again, because you just can't ask to be given a clearance or to go through the process. You can't purchase it. You have to be in a position that is requiring that.
Yeah. People ask all the time, can I purchase a clearance? And they need to understand that it's being sponsored by that organ. Can you address the whole, can I purchase a clearance, or what's the process? Because I think people don't understand how it's actually sponsored.
Yeah, you're going to either be, let's say, you could be working for the federal government, and you could be, cyber analyst,
cybersecurity specialist or something.
Whatever, engineer, and they say, we want you to work on project, Black Sky, and Project Black Sky is, requires you to have a security clearance. So that government agency will put you in for that clearance, because on that, to get access to the information relative to that project, you need to have a clearance. The contract well, let me go with the government first. So then they'll put you in. If you're working for a contractor such as ManTech, ManTech has programs, i.e. contracts they have with the government, and that contract will spell out everybody on this contract needs a security clearance, or these 17 people need a security clearance, or these 17 people need this level, these 30 people need this level. It'll spell out what's needed. So when you get hired against that contract, they'll put you in for security clearance. They'll put you in for that security clearance. And so ManTech or these contractors are not paying for that clearance. The government is paying the cost of that investigation and the cost of that adjudication. And so that cost is kind of built in, but you as an individual, and I've heard those questions over the years as well, you know, how can I get a clearance? Can I just go and request it? You just can't go and request it. There has to be a need for you. You know, somebody has to want you to have a need to know, because to get that clearance, to have access to classified information, and we covered that in one of the earlier slides, you have to have the proper clearance level and that need to know. So somebody has to make a determination that you have a need to know, you know, classified information relative to this particular program.
Well, this has been a great opportunity to talk to you about these questions, because I get these questions in my emails and my DMs on social media. I highly recommend those that didn't come to the actual webinar at the beginning to go back and watch and listen to the recording. I have a few questions in here for the recruiters on the line. So I just want to give people an opportunity to address their questions about ManTech opportunities. So Heaven, I guess, did you want to touch base on if people are applying to ManTech opportunities, how can they go about navigating, staying in touch with ManTech, you know, explaining to them about the hiring process, because they're asking me questions about things that I don't think I'm knowledgeable about.
Before she starts, I will say, I'll give a plug to ManTech. Great company. I love working there. I've been there for 13 years.
Oh, wow. 13 years?
And if you knew me, you'd know if I'm not happy, I'm gone. So, you know, I've been there for 13 years, and
that's amazing. That speaks volumes to the company.
Yeah, it's a really good company. I definitely, you know, give a plug to, you know,
so there's a lot of good opportunities out on the website, and people in the chat are asking me, if I see a position on the ManTech website, what is the next step I should take? I'm assuming apply. I don't know. I want to give the recruiters an opportunity to address that.
Absolutely. So I'll jump in here real quick, Kanika. So yes, if you see a position out on the ManTech website, I would definitely encourage you to apply to it. The recruiters, because we're very focused on growth and giving opportunities. So the recruiter for that particular position should be responding to you within a couple of days, if not sooner than that. But definitely the first step is to go out on the website. If you see something that interests you, apply for sure.
Okay. I put the link to the chat in the chat for the job postings, but if you guys just Google ManTech, you'll find that the website will come up on Google. I mean, I think that there's a lot of questions. I tried to address as many as I can. We'll be here all night if I try to address them all. But Robert,
real quick, can I just add one more thing? When you guys are out there on the website looking at positions, we do have the capability on the website to be able to filter, right? So if you don't have a clearance, you can definitely filter on positions that don't have clearances. If you do have a specific clearance, you can be able to filter on positions that do have specific clearances, just so you know where your lane is as far as applying for positions. If there's a position out there where it already requires you to have a TSSCI or something like that, and you don't have a clearance at all, unless it specifically says ability to obtain a clearance or a certain level clearance, then that means that the expectation is that you already have the clearance coming on. So I would encourage you guys, if you're out there looking at positions, do those filters on the positions based off of your clearance level. If you don't have one, do a search on ones that don't require clearance. And if you do have a specific clearance, do a search on those that do have a clearance. And then, like I said, again, look at those that if it says ability to obtain, then that means that, okay, at the beginning, it doesn't require you to have a clearance, but as long as if you're a US citizen, then you can essentially apply and they'll potentially go through the process of you getting the clearance once you go through the interview process and they deem that they want you as a candidate. But yeah, I would definitely encourage to filter on those positions that apply to the level of clearance of what you have.
Just to piggyback, I would also say, don't just, if you see multiple positions, apply for those multiple positions.
Mhm.
Don't just think, oh, I'm gonna just do one. You
Right.
know, I've seen many people who, have applied 3, 4, 5 times, and got that fifth one or got the fourth one or got whatever the case may be, qualified for all of them. But when you start looking at those positions, really delve in and see if there's more than one that you may be a fit for and apply for those as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And sometimes do you think that, once you get become a part of the ManTech ecosystem, that you may don't come in initially with your first position with a cleared position, but is it possible that you get inside of the employee database, that there's a project that comes across your plate, and you're like, hey, we want to give Johnny, we want to go ahead and upgrade or sponsor him a clearance to work on this project because he has that subject matter expertise and knowledge? Is that possible too?
Absolutely, yes. So once you apply for a position, it does go into our database, and we are constantly, as recruiters, going through our database. Looking, that is one of the first places we go to when we're looking for candidates that have the experience and the skill set that we're looking for. So definitely, again, that's why we encourage you to always apply. If there's not something that you see out there at that moment in time at the moment in time that you're looking, there's still an option to be able to submit your resume so that your resume goes into our database, so that when we're doing those searches and looking for candidates in positions, that as long as you have that skill set, it'll come up. So we always encourage you to upload your resume and apply, because yes, we look in our database and we use those candidates and reach out to those candidates when we are looking for that specific skill set.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm not in recruiting. However, I have definitely seen recruiters passing people that maybe weren't right for the position that they were recruiting for and directly passed it on to another recruiter to say, hey, this looks like something, it's right in your wheelhouse, what you're looking for, type of thing. So
Absolutely.
definitely, across the board.
Yes, absolutely. Just to piggyback on what Robert said, is like, if we as recruiters are looking for a skill set for specific positions that we're looking for, and your skill set doesn't meet that, or we come across your resume and it doesn't meet something that we're looking for, we definitely will pass your resume. If we know of other positions out there that recruiters are looking for, we will pass the resume along and be like, hey, we came across this resume and we think they would be a good fit for what you're looking for over here. So there's definitely a lot of cross communication and sharing when it comes to resumes and candidates.
Awesome. Awesome. This has been a great opportunity for us to really understand like what the process is. Do you know what are some of the like hiring trends right now? What are the most popular technologies or things that you're seeing that people should be upskilling themselves on right now?
From what I'm seeing, and I'm like, again, I'm coming from the business development side. Of course, we're always in need of software developers, software engineers. Um, I'm trying to think just kind of what's on my plate. Um, I've seen an uptick in like PMs, with agile experience. Um, what else?
I've seen a lot of data roles on your website too.
Data
Data
roles
science.
and And yeah, absolutely. And we are moving towards a big focus for ManTech right now is AI and
Yeah,
machine
somebody
learning.
put that in the chat. Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. Data analysts, AI, machine learning, yes. Always looking for cloud engineers, Scrum masters, yes.
Yeah.
All the system admins, yes. Those are all roles that we are definitely always looking for. And again, because a big focus on our growth is within AI and machine learning, so we are looking
Oh,
for
wow.
people with those skill sets who have that experience. So for sure, those are definitely definitely
Yeah.
a lot of the top ones that we're seeing more recently.
I've been telling
Yeah,
them, I've been
I
telling
will
them
add,
Oh, go ahead, Caroline.
I will add that those positions cut across all sectors, whether
Mm-hmm,
it's intel, federal
mm-hmm,
civilian, or defense, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, all of those positions have impact in all of the areas that ManTech faces. We have three primary sectors, and I just mentioned them: federal civilian, defense, and intel. And
Mm.
those roles fall within all of those categories.
That's so important that what you mentioned is like really understanding those different areas within GovTech and understanding what those clients want. I've been telling them on Twitter that data, cyber, artificial intelligence, all of those things are the things that in cloud computing, those are the things that they need to be upskilling themselves on to stay ahead and to stay in what's happening because the government is just trying to adopt AI at a very fast pace, but we still need cybersecurity folks and we still need
mm-hmm.
cloud folks and we still need data folks to make all of this cohesively to work well together for all of the different areas within GovTech. So
Absolutely,
I'm glad to hear that because it sounds like what I've been telling them online is they need to learn these things. So
absolutely,
yeah, so this has been
Yeah,
great.
yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. ManTech's a technology company, big. I mean, that's what we do, and they've even partnered with, again, to give us a little plug, they even partnered with Purdue University Global to offer master's degree programs, bachelor's degree programs across, good swath of the technology world, things such as cloud computing, information technology, cybersecurity, data analytics, things of that nature, where it's all online, but the cost is free. So for the most part, it's a nominal amount of money you may pay for 3 or 4 books, perhaps, but ManTech pays that cost directly. It's a great program because, again, ManTech, to your point, Kanika, ManTech also wants its people to really, those government customers want that, they want those technologies and those people are good with those technologies. We want to grow people
Yeah,
in those areas as well.
for
Yeah,
sure.
and a couple of things I will say. Another plug for ManTech. I mean, there are two primary areas of focus. We're mission focused, and that is national security. But ManTech is also people focused, and they invest in their people because they know that we power innovation. And so I'll tell you honestly, they suit their actions to their words. So, and that's what allows us to grow, thrive, and that's why we stay. So, because it's purposeful work and they invest in us.
Awesome. Awesome. I know we're
oh,
about 15
oh,
minutes over. I'm sorry,
yeah.
someone else had something to say.
One more thing, because I'm just seeing a couple of comments in the chat
Okay.
in reference to different positions. I would encourage you all to, on our website, you can go and do an actual search on specific skill sets and positions that you're looking for. So I would encourage you to do that. Like we are definitely an IT cyber company, but we are in need of different positions all across the board. So if it's something outside of IT, I would still encourage you to go and look on our website, do a search in the search fields on public relations, advertising, admin, whatever it is, do a search on it. And that way you'll be able to see the positions that we do have available. But even if you don't see something out there at this current time, continue to look back because we're always going after new contracts. We're always going after new, again, our focus is growth. Like we are very focused on growth. So I would encourage you to constantly check on our website and look for new positions that might be coming out there, because we are always going after new contracts and getting awarded contracts and stuff like that. So we're always getting new positions that are going to be coming available. So.
Well, this has been amazing. I was on the website this weekend. It was like close to over 1,300 job postings on the website. I may be a little off with that, but people in the chat, they're super excited. They're saying they're applying tonight. I'm so happy that people found this webinar very valuable, the information that Robert presented. And, you know, I just want people to try to don't get discouraged, you know, because this job market is really, really discouraging for a lot of people, and people are feeling like their rejections. It's just making people so sad, especially the people that want to get a sponsored clearance. Any words of encouragement y'all could give somebody right now that maybe is in the job market, but they want to stay encouraged, they want to stay uplifted as they look for a new opportunity?
I will add some words. As you search, make sure you leverage your network. Don't just shoot your resume out into the void. Make sure that it is funneled. You connect with someone. You try to get that resume circulated to the hiring manager. Use your network. Engage with people, and don't try to go it alone, because it is we need community. And it is community that allows us to thrive and grow. And we love investing in each other and in others. And so leverage us to that end.
Yeah, I would just agree with everything she just said. Keep that learning mindset. Be curious. Keep learning. You can never know too much. Okay, you got that bachelor's, you got that master's, but you got to keep learning. You got to keep growing. You know, your skill base, keeping up with what's going on, and working things through that way. And then, like Carol had said, you know, leverage your network. Leverage. You know, don't be afraid to ask somebody to recommend something, or to, you know, pass a resume to. Hey, do you know the hiring manager? You know, they may not. You know, but you know, don't lose hope. Continue to be your authentic self. You know, continue to be your authentic self, and, you know, let that shine through for you.
Awesome. Well, we've gone over 20 minutes. I'm sorry. There was a lot of questions, but this was a great conversation. Dennis, are you still there?
Of course, absolutely.
I think we're towards the end now. I wanted to just let everybody know, those that are still with us, there's like 185 people who's still here. Wow. I don't know why you want to be here with us for 90 minutes, but I guess this was a great webinar because I learned a lot. We're going to be having some more events happening for the DC chapter, so stay tuned. More virtual events are happening from my team. Some of my team members, they joined. I want to thank everybody that joined today. I want to thank the ManTech team for helping me put all of this together, because without you guys, we would not have been able to host this amazing webinar. So thank you so much. But stay tuned. We're going to have some virtual events and in-person events. So make sure that you join the DC chapter mailing list as well, and join your local chapter, your local city and state chapter. Dennis, did you have any closing remarks before we end the call?
No, thanks everybody for coming out. And if you want to follow up, you know, or replay this webinar, it's going to be posted on the YouTube channel. You can get to that from blacksandtechnology.org. The link is in our footer for the YouTube page. And yeah, tell a friend to tell a friend.
Yep. I'll see you guys at the next virtual webinar. We're having a webinar in June and July, so stay tuned. So we'll be marketing that out in another week or two. All right. So thank you so much. I'll see you guys in these internet streets.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Have a great one.